What's up fellas, Moon here. Today, we're going to be covering the concept of not giving up in your Battleground Blitz games. This is a game I played on stream earlier this morning on Eye of the Storm at 2300 MMR, and we ended up going down 700 points in the game, but we're still able to bring it back and clutch out a win. Something you'll notice is that despite the majority of this lobby having gladiator mounts, even at 2300 MMR in the early season, you'll see massive mistakes made in the macro play department and throws happening on both teams that will allow the other team to have a game-winning opportunity. The same will apply for your lobbies as well. I think by far the most aggravating thing I've encountered in Blitz that will rival my teammates fighting in the middle of a capture the flag map are my teammates preemptively giving up and going AFK in the corner of the map when the game is still winnable. While I was personally demoralized seeing just how badly we were fumbling the early and mid part of this game, I'm very thankful that my team still put in the effort and fought tooth and nail for this victory. With that out of the way, let's get into the gameplay. Alright, so a quick note is that I am duo queued with the Rep Paladin. I don't know him personally. We just ended up winning a Deep Wind Gorge game together right before this, and he offered me to duo queue, so I went ahead and accepted. DPS folk, if you're looking to make your experience way better, make sure you friend your healers, because I know a lot of us healers out there are looking for DPS players to play with. It makes the game a lot more fun and a lot less miserable, especially when you got somebody that you're on the same wavelength with. So another disclaimer is that I am going to be stopping the recording and rewinding to explain certain concepts as they appear, just giving you a heads up on that. Now, the main difference between Battleground Blitz Eye of the Storm compared to Eye of the Storm in the random battleground mode or the rated battleground mode is that you really don't want to fight for the middle flag because the bases hold so much more value. And here's why. I'll go ahead and explain it. I'm going to flicker my map here shortly just to talk about what our opening strategy is and generally what the best strategy is to pull off. So let me go ahead and rewind it a little bit. In Battleground Blitz, what you want to do is you want to send 2 or 3 people, preferably one of your healers is in that 2 or 3. So in this game, we end up discussing that we'll be sending myself, the Rep Paladin, and the Warrior to defend the home base, whatever that is. So in this map, it's going to be Draenei Ruins for us. And then you want to send the remaining 5 people to go on offense to push the enemy team's base, because in an ideal situation, you end up getting both bases and then you can chokehold the enemy team because they will never be able to capture the middle flag. And if they cannot capture the flag, they cannot reset the map state, because these 2 bases that are locked right now will become unlocked whenever the flag captures. And there are times where you can tactically capture the flag, like if you need to reset the map state, but those times are going to be a little bit more niche. So the easiest way that you can win your Eye of the Storm games is to get both bases and then spend them for the whole game, which is probably about 5 minutes, I think, if you are able to hold both bases and not lose either or. So that's our opening strat. We'll see if it ends up panning out that way. Again, this is a solo duo queue mode, so you really can't rely on all 8 of your teammates to actually 1, have instance chat on, or 2, listen to you. And I'm going to pause briefly here to call an incoming in the instance chat that there is a push coming to the Draenei Ruins, and then I'm going to set up for this first team fight. So it looks like they end up sending 4 people to our base to come and try and kill us. Bloodlust is popped from both teams, and we are starting our first team fight. Something I want to discuss about when it comes to healing Battleground Blitz is that in Arena and in Mythic Plus or Raid, you are generally taught as a healer that you should stagger your defensive cooldowns because you want to milk as much value as you can from those defensive cooldowns. And while in a general rule that is true, the fact of the matter is that in Battleground Blitz, that's not the case. You see, right now, we've got Void Eruption going from the Shadow Priest, Unholy Assault going from the Unholy Death Knight, and Icy Veins going from the Frost Mage, all at the same time. If I just put 1 healing tide down, I am not going to live. So I will have to trade Ascendance here, I will have to trade Ancestral Guidance here, and my healing throughput is going to go up to about 1.6, 1.7 million healing per second. And even with that insane amount of throughput, we are still dying through all my cooldowns. So understand that sometimes you will have to stack your defensive cooldowns, and that's totally okay. We are just getting absolutely crushed. All of these cooldowns are popping out. We're taking an insane amount of damage from the enemy team. I have to throw down Spirit Link. We're dying through Spirit Link, but we are just trying our absolute best to spin this base. Now, macro-wise, our skirmishing team that pushed up to the Fel Reaver Ruins actually did a really good job by tagging it for a little bit, because that ended up giving us time to take Draenei Ruins in full control of us and start putting points on the board while they had to reassault their base. So we are already getting like about a 100-point lead, even though all 3 of us go down here. And then this brings me to my next point, which is in Battleground Blitz, you need to loot bodies. Unfortunately for the enemy team, they do not loot our bodies, which allows the Rep Paladin and myself to both body res at 80% health, and for me, it looks like I have about 60% mana. So we are still able to get right back into the fight and start spinning this base over again. The mage here misses his Ice Wall because there's really cool tech where you could like Ice Wall and then capture the base, but For Treyway here, he actually gets on my team in the next game and hard carries with ice walls, so I'll go ahead and forgive him for this one. But our objective now here is to spin the base. So even though the enemy team takes the flag here, that's not really a big concern for us, because what we want to do is ensure that we don't lose both bases. If they have both bases and the flag, it's game over, and it's a lot harder for us to try and come back as being the team to assault our own base back, whereas the enemy team would then just have to spin the base. So as I've said in my guide, and I'll even go ahead and link my guide here because I talk about this map for literally half an hour, it is a lot easier to come back from a flag cap, being down a flag cap, than it is to try to come back from losing both bases. But we end up clearing out this push here, thankfully, because we do get reinforcements to Draenei Ruins, and I am just about out of mana, so I need to sit down for a drink. Unfortunately for Moon, the second that I sit down and take a drink is the second that they capture the flag, and now the bases are resetting. I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to try and get over to Mage Tower and drink, but I see that our Preservation Evoker is already there, so I really don't want to overcommit the healing resources to one base. I instead opt to go for mid to see if we can maybe fight for another flag capture and start to recover. The Druid knocks me here. I mean to press Gust of Wind here, and as you can see, I'm raging about how slow the Shaman global cooldowns are, but you know, I fat finger things all the time, so it just happens, right? People fat finger abilities, that's just kind of how it is. So we're fighting for this mid flag here. Unfortunately, we lose it, but we do end up taking the Blood Elf Tower, and I know that the Unholy Death Knight is running towards the base that we have. So my thought process is to immediately pivot and run towards the Mage Tower to see if we can capture both bases, or bring the flag carrier to us, because if they can't win back Blood Elf Tower, then they have to come to the Mage Tower, where I will be, and then I can see about knocking or disrupting or doing whatever to the enemy flag carrier. So we get into a skirmish here. Unfortunately, my Preservation Evoker dies, but I do end up saving the Devastation Evoker, and we are now fighting for this base right here. The mage has a really good displace and is able to get back to the flag, but Fury Warrior damage is still broken, so unfortunately he goes down. I get the flag cap, and right as I get the base assault, the other base gets assaulted, so we basically just trade the bases. But you know, on the bright side, at least it's better than going down 2 bases to 1, and unfortunately for us, this results in them getting another flag capture. So I'll go ahead and skip forward to where they actually capture the flag. So they end up capturing the flag. Again, my immediate thought process is to go to the other base, but I see that my rogue is there and the feral druid is there to provide some support as well. So I take a few seconds and hover, because what you really don't want to do is you don't want to overcommit to a play and then not be needed there. So it is totally okay to just hover for a few seconds, see what's happening, see how your team reacts, see how the enemy team is reacting before you make a decision on where to play at. And again, I'm going to try and fight for this flag in the middle, because it seems like they are trying to win by capturing the bases and rotating and getting the flags and everything like that. And we already have control of base. It doesn't seem like we're going to be able to actually win a team fight outright. So it makes sense. My warrior gets the flag here, and unfortunately, he's about to make the biggest misplay of his whole career. What he should do is he should run to the base and hold the flag there, and then we try to fight for the second base, and then we can just win easily through that way. Or, you know, stick with his team, have his team escort him to the base, maybe we all capture the flag together, move as a team. That would be the ideal play. Instead, he runs back through my health. I know I have all my raid frames on the screen, but instead he decides to run back towards the middle with the flag and try to fight with the flag. Let's see how that plays out. So I use Gust of Wind because I think I'm escorting the flag carrier. I open my map and I see that he's still in the mid fighting. He gets silenced, he gets stunned for full duration, he gets stunned for half duration, and he gets knocked off the map. As you can see in the live moon reaction, I am not happy about that play at all. On top of that, we end up losing Draenei Ruins, and this is putting us in a worst case scenario. I am now one lonely panda in the middle of the Eye of the Storm, taking on a 3v1 situation with very little mana, and it is not a good place to be. I end up dying here, which is actually the best thing that can happen to me, because not only will I respawn, but I'll get full mana. And I think I say something along the lines of, oh, we lose this, and I'm taking a deep sigh, but understand that even though there are times where you are down, you are not completely out. We're gonna go ahead and start making our way back to Draenei Ruins, because really the only thing we can do is fight for one base and try our best to claw back the game, but you know, you never really know what can happen. And in this game, they captured the flag. I say right here, no shot they cap this, because let me rewind it here. If the enemy team wanted to win, all they had to do was hold both of the bases hostage until they hit 1250 points. Because when you have both of the bases, The flag cap value is 250 points, and so if you capture it at 1250, you auto win the game, right? But they instead cap it early, giving us the opportunity to take the bases back, and now the map state's resetting while their whole team is stuck at Draenei Ruins. So the second I see them capture the flag, I am immediately getting my ass out of Draenei Ruins and over to the Mage Tower to fight for that base back. Something that I want to talk about as well is because it's like, oh, well, you're a healer, why would you just abandon that post? A lot of low-rated players will have this misconception that a staple of a good healer is having a large amount of healing done on the board. That is not necessarily the case. So in Battleground Blitz, objectives are always priority, and as a healer, if you can do an objective or if you can win like a little duel at a base, like I'm about to try and duel this mage for, you can contribute so much to winning the game for your team that you just really can't do in like arena. So I find that you have a lot of playmaking potential, and I think that's really awesome as a healer. And I think that makes healing a lot more fun to do because of that. So I just wanted to do that as a side note. I'm going to go ahead and talk about what happens with this duel with this mage, just because a lot of stuff happens at the same time. So I tag him with Flame Shock as he starts the cap. He knocks me back with Blast Wave. I Gust of Wind back. I then go to stun him with Lightning Lasso. He blinks because he has Blink Stun, displaces back to the flag. Tries to polymorph me. I miss both my Sheer and my Panda, but I am able to ground the polymorph. He doesn't really know what to do, and I get him tripped up for a little bit, but he goes to Dragon's Breath me and recast Poly. The Dragon's Breath breaks, I Thunderstorm him off, and I take the base. So now all I have to do is stall for 30 seconds. Well, I guess 26 because it's a 4-second cap. But then the base is ours, and thankfully for myself, the rogue comes to provide me some backup. So again, all we have to do is just stall this base, wait till it locks, and then it'll be a lot harder for that mage to capture. And luckily enough for us is that we had 4 people go over to the Blood Elf Tower, win that skirmish over there, and take that base too. As you can see, the enemy team has the flag. What are they going to do with it? They don't have a base to capture that. But now we are in a point where we have both bases and the flag. And all we have to do is wait until 1250, capture it, and win this game. But you can see just how fast we are getting points now, how fast this lead is closing, because having both bases matters so much more on Eye of the Storm than just capturing the flag over and over again. Just in the time it took me to say that sentence, we gained 100 points. So this rogue and I are going to have to do our absolute damnedest to stall this base versus I think 4 people. We do end up killing that Feral Druid here. That's really cool for us. Here comes the reinforcements, and it's about to be all out brawl at the Mage Tower. Both of the Mistweaver monks come in, and I forget that Thunder Focus Teas got changed or whatever. Mistweavers have this new thing where they can get like 3 or 4 stacks of it, so I get knocked off and Gust of Wind the wrong direction. I'm panicking. I think that we lose the base, but we end up not because my Rogue and Ret are able to spin. And then backing this up a little bit, right before we're able to get the winning cap, we're almost at that magical 1250 mark. They are still trying to spin the base. I use Static Field Totem, I rip them all off the flag, and we win the game. I hope this goes to show that despite being at a massive disadvantage, again, we were down 700 points. In most games, there will still be opportunities for you to make plays to help get your team back in the game, or even flip the game in your team's favor. Granted, it's not going to work all the time. There are some maps where that's virtually impossible, like Temple of Kapmogu, but in most cases, there is still something you can do to contribute to your team's success. So that'll do it for today's video. If you like these type of sort of like video breakdowns or going over and explaining the macro play like in real time, maybe in a format not like my 30-minute guides, let me know down in the comments below. And also, if you've had a game yourself where it felt absolutely hopeless, but you were able to bring it back as well, let me know about it down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this type of content, it would mean a lot if you could support my channel. But until next time, this is Moon, coming back from the verge of defeat and signing out.